The meeting is called to order. The meeting is called to order. We don't have any electronic participation, so we'll move to item C1, Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Day.
So please rise for the pledge.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Day. Next one is item D1, approval of agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'd like to make a modification to the agenda.
You need a second first.
Yeah, let's get it.
I'll
second.
second the motion.
Right.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Go ahead, Mr. DePaul.
I'd like to include a discussion on the changes to the policies that we've made and the implementation date being immediate.
You'd like to have under the old business item, an item discussing the policies we approved last?
Yes, that's correct.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Mr. Connor, so the modified, is there other agenda?
So that's, let's see, did we have an old business section here? Unfinished business, I guess that's what we mean. So that's K, and so the motion, well, we have to approve it first, but the motion is that we'll have a discussion about the policy decisions that were made.
Correct.
Okay.
Please.
And I'd like to make one more amendment to our closed meeting, and I'm reading it from Attorney Towns, the language which modifies the last line. Madam Clerk, it's for you. After the word superintendent and the Virginia Code 2.2-311A8, consultation with legal counsel on unitary status. Is there a second to my motion?
Second.
Thank you. So let's vote. Could we vote on both amendments together, Dr. Day?
Unless anyone objects, I guess we can.
All right. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Carter,
Yes.
Mr. Jalil,
Abstain.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Dr. Day,
Yes?
Dr. Gupta,
Yes.
Mrs. Preston,
Yes.
Mr. DePaul,
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie,
Yes.
Dr. Tinsley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now, so the main motion with the amended agenda is on the floor. And any discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Connor,
Present.
That means abstain.
Yes, no?
What, I thought we voted on both motions at the same.
We voted to change, to make a
Yes.
change to the agenda. Now we have to adopt the changed
Yes.
agenda.
Mr. Jalil,
Abstain.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Dr. Day,
Yes?
Dr. Gupta,
Yes.
Mrs. Preston,
Yes.
Mr. DePaul,
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie,
Yes.
Dr. Tinsley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next one is item DE1, chair comments, and I yield my time to Dr. Day. Dr. Day, go ahead.
Okay. I've been asked to make some comments about parliamentary procedure. I made some comments about parliamentary procedure last October at the October 24 work session, and there's still a file attached to that agenda if you want to review what I said then. Some of what I'm about to say is a repeat of that. Some of it is new. So largely this is by way of reminder, at least at first. So we need to each wait until we're recognized by the chair before speaking. Only one person has the floor at a time, and I will confess that I'm probably the worst offender at this. I tend to just jump in when a thought comes into my head. I know we all do that, so I'm not scolding anyone. I'm just saying we all need to be careful to try to observe that. And the other usual protocol is that our comments are supposed to be addressed to the chair, not to each other. That's intended to prevent our discussions from turning into a verbal shouting match between each other. So next, let me say a few things about committee chairs. When any of our committees, Facilities and Finance, Academic Success, legislative advocacy and community relations, and student discipline, when they meet for the first time, the first order of business is to select one of the members as committee chair. The chair of a committee is responsible for formulating meeting agenda and communicating the agenda to the clerk in time to be posted at least 2 days in advance, for presiding over the meeting, for ensuring that minutes are taken and communicating the minutes to the clerk. If the chair is going to be absent from the meeting, they should arrange for someone else to cover their duties for them. In our small committee meetings, motions do not need a second. This is in accord with Robert's rules, which says that, if you have a three-person meeting, somebody makes a motion, somebody seconds it, you've already got a majority. So in a committee meeting, just make the motion, it doesn't need a second. And in general, in small committee meetings like our committees, business can be conducted a little bit less formally than at full board meetings. The board chair is an ex officio member of all committees and has full participation rights, including voting when present. However, the chair is not counted in determining quorum. By law, committees may not hold their meetings electronically. Individual members may participate by a remote connection, but quorum must first be met by members physically present, and then remote participation approved as per policy before a member may participate remotely. Committee members may communicate with each other one-on-one or by email or other means to share thoughts and ideas, but any official decision of a committee must be made by vote in a properly called official meeting of the committee. And except for the Student Discipline Committee, each committee includes a parent liaison. The selection of those liaisons is left to each committee to decide for itself from the list of applicants. Liaisons are non-voting and are not counted regarding quorum. Next, I want to make some comments about precedence of motions. And let me say at the outset, I am not a trained parliamentarian, although the chair keeps referring to me as the parliamentarian. I have no training. I just happen to have a copy of Robert's Rules of Order that I've spent hours and hours poring over to try to sort this out, because it's some 500 pages long. It's not an easy read. There can only be one main motion under consideration at a time. However, there are many different motions that can be made and considered while a main motion is on the floor, and there is a hierarchy of which motions take precedence over which. I'm not going to try to give you a full description. You'll have to study Robert's Rules for yourself if you want all the details. But let me try to explain about a couple of these so-called subsidiary motions. That's what Robert's Rules calls them. These are motions that pertain to how the board will handle the main motion. One example is a motion to amend the main motion, and we've seen several instances of that in our previous meeting. Another is a motion to postpone further discussion and action on the main motion to a specified time in the future. And there are several others which you can read about. Now, the reason I've cited that last one is because at our last meeting, July 23rd, we were considering a motion made by Mr. Andrews to rescind our facilities decision of last fall. Mr. Jalil made a motion to postpone the vote until our next meeting, which would have been tonight. Before we voted on his motion, he restated his motion with the inclusion of a provision that the agenda for tonight's meeting be publicly displayed at least 1 week in advance. So he was informally amending his own motion, but we accepted that. Now, at that point, I claimed that because Mr. Jalil's restated motion did not address the content of Mr. Andrews' motion, it was not an amendment, but a separate motion, and therefore was inadmissible. I was wrong. A motion to postpone further discussion to a certain time is perfectly legitimate. I very much regret my mistake because it led us into a hasty decision, as I will explain later tonight. And so I want to publicly apologize to Mr. Jalil and to the board for my mistake. Now, however, the added part of Mr. Jalil's motion regarding the early posting of tonight's agenda should have been split off as a separate motion and considered only after Mr. Andrews' main motion resolved. And the proper way to do that would be by a motion to divide the question. That's what it's called. It's another motion that can be made while a main motion is on the floor. It must be seconded, but it is not debatable. It requires a majority vote, and it cannot be reconsidered if it passes. Now, we have not ever made such a motion while I've been on the board, but that would have been the proper way to handle your sort of two-pronged motion. Split off one of them and handle it later, okay? So we're all learning by our mistakes, me no less than anyone else. Finally, let me remind us board members that in the board comments section of our agenda, comments should only pertain to information pertinent to school board issues, not general public service announcements. And please keep your comments brief out of respect for everyone's time and patience.
Thank you, Dr. Day. Next one is item F1, American Heart Association, Dr. Edwards.
You skipped D2, is that?
That's the notice, that was for public information.
Okay.
The letter, D2 was a letter sent out signed by chair and me to the city manager informing the board's decision. So this was put on the agenda to inform the public what action we have taken at our end to inform the board's decision to the city hall. That's the proper procedure. The letter goes from the chair and vice chair to the city manager, and it's for the city manager to pass it on to the city council or the appropriate people.
That letter was sent July 31.
Yeah, it's in the public record. So
Right.
you put that letter, the reason the item D2 was there, to make that a public record. So next one is item F1, American Heart Association, Dr. Edwards.
Okay, all right. We are happy to have two presentations tonight. One is from the American Heart Association, and we have Brett Baker here to present us with two donated CPR training kits, which actually, working with one of our staff members who is a former staff member now, but a committed staff member to our children and really teaching them about CPR and letting them practice. So I am going to welcome Brett Baker up to the podium. Tell us a little bit about American Heart Association and some of the partnerships that we have with you. And then Dr. Wodeka, because that's a really big container there, or two of them, who is overseeing our athletics department, will receive those on behalf of the division.
Yes, so these are two CPR kits that have been generously donated by Howell's Freight Motor. Is that correct? Yes. And this is Elizabeth Bale. She does our heart walk. She is with me today. But Marissa Freeman at Perrymont is who does our program, and she coordinates everything for the Kids Heart Challenge. And when I learned that she was rolling up yoga mats to teach her students hands-only CPR, I was like, something's got to be done. We have got to donate these kits. So when I found out that they were available, I was like, okay, Lynchburg City Public Schools, here we go. So we just, our mission is to teach those students and those families and staff members as well the hands-only CPR, life-saving skill of hands-only CPR. So we just wanted to give these to you all. Oops, sorry. And I think Elizabeth has a little story she'd like to share that is just full circle for Lynchburg.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you for allowing us to be here for a few minutes. But I had the honor to visit with you all in 2017. American Heart Association lobbied nationally in 2015 for CPR to be a graduation requirement for high schools. It passed in 2016. In 2017, we started placing CPR kits in, most particularly for Brett and I's region in Southwest Virginia. So Lynchburg City, I remember being here the evening of, I don't remember the evening, but it was in 2017. So you were the first school system. So we're delighted to be back, to be able to replenish. We just placed Bedford, and we have Campbell next, and a lot of counties around as well. So thank you for allowing us to be here tonight with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And these kits, they have 10 CPR mannequins along with information and videos so that your schools and whomever really can use them, to learn those life-saving skills. So again, thank you so much for having us, and I hope you guys enjoy these kits and find them useful.
Dr. Day wants to acknowledge.
Well, I just wanted to ask a question.
Sure.
Those kits are for training our students for what you call hands-on CPR.
Hands-only CPR.
Those are not defibrillators like we might find on the wall.
No,
someplace.
sir, they're not your AEDs.
Okay,
No, sir.
they're for training purposes for us.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
So Dr. Wodeka is doing PD with the health and PE teachers this week, so I'm sure that will be a fan favorite, and you'll have to figure out how to do the sign up for
Who gets it first?
who gets it first, right? After we take them upstairs and see what they're like upstairs. Thank you all for coming and joining us. Second on our list, our second partner, it's always great to have partners that support our school division, is our Lynchburg Regional Business Alliance. And I'm going to invite Ms. Tori Gilmartin up to talk a little bit about the Educator Workforce Academy. And we see you, Megan Lucas. We also going to invite you up to say some words as well.
Thank you. I also like the height of this podium. Sometimes my height does not allow me to see over them. But anyways, I am Tori Gilmartin. I'm the Director of Talent and Workforce Development for the Lynchburg Regional Business Alliance. We are the Regional Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Organization. And we just recently wrapped up our first ever Educator Workforce Academy. And this program was actually pioneered by another community that's similar to ours in West Alabama. And they've seen great success as far as building relationships with the industries there and making sure that their students are prepared for the workforce when they graduate high school. And so some of the things that we covered during this particular program and this year is an introduction to workforce development. So we had 50 K-12 education leaders that learned about what their role is in workforce development, which is essentially training and educating the future talent for the industries in our region, and specifically for our region, right? We want them to stay here and work here and build up our economy and have upward mobility right here where they grew up. We also talked about career and technical education with post-secondary institutions and heard from Central Virginia Community College, Virginia Technical Institute, and also Old Dominion Job Corps about their unique offerings for CT education. And then we also did industry tours, which was the incredibly fun part, to see the facilities firsthand and what it looks like to actually work there. And so that was part of it as well. And then, yes. So just to give you an idea of just the level of what it takes for workforce development to work, it's an all hands on deck. So all of these people, all of these partners up here helped make this particular program possible. And as you can see, Lynchburg City Schools is actually up there. We were able to use 3 of the Julie electric buses as our transportation and had 3 bus drivers make sure that we got to where we needed to go. And so that would have not been possible without Lynchburg City Schools. And so we're incredibly grateful for that partnership and for the way that it made it possible. And also, we had 12 Lynchburg City Schools education leaders participate in the Educator Workforce Academy. And they also proudly wore their t-shirts on the second day, which I personally loved. But it was just great having such a large presence from Lynchburg City Schools at this program. And to give you a little bit of background of what this program comes from, this is our regional workforce roadmap. This is the regional strategy for workforce development. And within this roadmap is the Educator Workforce Academy. It's one of the strategic activities, and everything that we are doing as a region when it comes to workforce development falls within this roadmap. And there's a lot of players involved in this, whether it's employers, whether it's our chamber, whether it's Virginia Career Works, or other workforce community partners. There's a lot of people at the table who are part of this. We even have Lynchburg City Schools represented on the group that leads this initiative. And this is just the strategic framework for that roadmap. So career pathways is where the Educator Workforce Academy falls under. Just building career awareness and perceptions and helping to design career pathways so that it's easier to understand how students can get to the jobs that are available in our region. And these are the industries that we are focusing on because of the demand within these industries, whether it's because the workforce is retiring and they need new, fresh talent to take those places, or there may be growth. Specifically within manufacturing in the Lynchburg region, we have a lot of variety, whether it's in production or installation, repair, and maintenance. There's a lot of opportunities for students to find work in these industries at high living wages, to have a great quality of life. And then with healthcare, there's over 1,000 open positions for registered nurses right now. So this is one of a major industry that has a workforce shortage and needs more talent. And these are just some pictures from the industry tours. We toured Aerofin, and you may spot some City of Lynchburg or Lynchburg City School folks through these pictures. BWXT was on the list, Framatome, Delta Star, Southern Air, and Centra. And at the end, one of the pieces of this that all of the school divisions that were part of it are working on is an action plan. And so everything that was learned and seen during this program, now the school systems are going back to come up with a plan to improve relationships with employers, enhance curriculum and programming to better prepare students for the workforce. A lot of what I was hearing during the program was soft skill development at a younger age, right? Having more employers come into the school systems and seeing exactly what students are learning within the classroom. And so, what we want to do on our end is help facilitate that, make sure that we are providing resources to the school systems so that those relationships are strengthening. And so the future for this program looks like including counselors and teachers who have direct contacts with students. So this go around, we had superintendents, assistant superintendents, principals, core counseling staff, and for the next time, we want more counselors and teachers to be a part of this program and learn about what it looks like to be a part of workforce development and preparing students. We want to invite more employers to the table, right? So we had six tour hosts, and then also Sunny Merriman did a kind of a moving tour on the bus to talk about the workforce that it takes to maintain and run those buses. So a total of 7 employers. Seeing that number expand and the amount of partnerships grow is part of the vision as well. And then creating a system to facilitate the connection between employers and the K-12 education system so those partnerships are strong and that students are ready for the workforce. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, as Ms. Gilmartin said, we did have 12 brave souls that participated in the program, and it really was. I want to thank you for arranging that. And although we know what's in our town and what's in our city, here, actually going to the facilities and talking with the employers and talking with their recent recruits, which was very helpful to talk to the young people who are making nice money, young people, to just hear their stories and all the resources that our businesses provide, their new recruits as well, was very helpful for our team. So I do appreciate that. I am going to ask Ms. Lucas, Megan Lucas, to come up and just say a few things on behalf of our region, because I did participate with her work and the very big strategic plan that you did, mapping out what we're doing here. And we do a lot of work with Marjette's not here, but she also keeps us very close-knit between the school system and what we're trying to do, not only in industry, but also She Week and just being a good moral, having good morals and character for our young ladies as well. So just give you a couple minutes to.
Well, thank you. I hadn't intended to speak. I really wanted to support Tori and what she's been doing. First of all, thank you for being on the school board. It's an important job, and I appreciate the time and commitment that all of you contribute to the education system in the Lynchburg region, in the city of Lynchburg. We, every 5 years, do a regional economic development strategy. That strategy drives our program of work over 5 years. In the most recent strategy, it came about that we needed to hire a regional Director of Talent Workforce Development, and that is our amazing Tori Gilmartin. And the next part of that initiative under that goal was to create the region's first comprehensive regional workforce strategy, bringing all the workforce resources together and really charting a course to impact and move the needle on workforce and talent development. We couldn't be more thrilled with the partnerships we have, the growth of those partnerships, and really look forward to continued growth and opportunity there. Without a strong economy, without a strong business community, we don't have a strong community. And a vibrant business community requires a growing, talented, thriving workforce. And we do that together. We don't do that in a silo. So we're happy to be here as a partner with Lynchburg City Schools, as well as all of our business and industries in the region. Are there any questions for me, related or unrelated? Or Tori?
Well, how can we help you this year?
You're doing it, participating, coming to the table, being active in the first Educator Workforce Academy. We did I think Tori mentioned it, we have patterned this after a tiny little town called Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Tuscaloosa is home to a major Mercedes-Benz manufacturing plant. And when they got that plant, there were several workforce hurdles. And today, fast forward to today, Tuscaloosa and West Alabama Works really is the gold standard. So we are patterning ourselves after them. We will have the second Worlds of Opportunity in October, which Tori's also coordinating, which is no longer, you might remember the job fairs that were koozies and candy and pencils, and those are gone. We don't do that anymore. And the Worlds of Opportunity Career Fair is a hands-on career fair for 8th graders through the entire region to engage with manufacturers, and all the participating manufacturers have to provide a hands-on opportunity. If we get excited about something, we see how something is done, we become more interested in it. That will occur in October, and hopefully you all will come by and participate in that. Again, that'll be region-wide. That'll be held at CVCC. But the best thing you can do for us is encourage engagement. We get support when we call Dr. Edwards and Dr. Rodica. I like to call him Reed, doctor, but be professional. Dr. Rodica, we get, you all are a clearly defined and active and engaged partner in the business community with the Alliance, and we appreciate you very much. So thank you for asking that question.
Thank you.
And I will add that Dr. Edwards and her team, first of all, used all the time they possibly could to work on their action plans during the Educator Workforce Academy. And those action plans are designed to provide the Alliance with information on how we can support you guys, and that's information that we need. And so that's already in motion too. Those action plans are going to be super helpful to know how we move forward in this partnership.
I think that was one of the fun things about the Educator Workforce Academy. It wasn't just the city of Lynchburg schools. It was all the schools, K through 12 in the region. And seeing the schools and the teams that they brought go into breakouts to work on their workforce strategies, what did you call it?
Action
plan, thank you. Together, that was powerful. And the response has been, can we do this more than once a year? Can we do it more often? But that multi-jurisdictional school engagement is powerful and can generate fruitful opportunities and ideas. Yes, sir.
Do you have any plan or program that to integrate the businesses that you work with our sporting events that happen throughout the year, announcements and things like that?
With your sporting events, give me an example of what you're asking.
During a football game's mid time? what do they call
Halftime,
it?
quarters,
Halftime?
breaks, yeah.
Yes, a special, announcement that there's a hiring event going on in a month from now or something
Sure.
like that, and there's a giveaway.
Yeah, we've never considered that. Certainly as our companies, desperate, everybody, workforce is an issue. I would think that'd be a great opportunity to educate about the opportunities in the workforce and certain career fields. One of the things that Talent Tory's working on, along with Central Virginia Career Works, is we're doing vignettes, video recorded vignettes of in-demand careers, so that we're interviewing a welder or interviewing specific jobs in specific sectors, so people can learn, students can learn, oh, that's what a welder does, that's what a nuclear welder does, and by the way, this is what a nuclear welder makes, and this is what their benefits could be if they go. So there could be an opportunity there to educate about specific jobs versus hiring events. Could be both.
So you want us to install a Jumbotron in every one of our...
Absolutely. And once you find the funds for a Jumbotron, I'll wait for Anthony Andrews to make that motion. Once you find the funds for
Wow. I think you have a reputation. I gotta get a second first.
Absolutely. We appreciate Andrew.
We appreciate you coming down
It's my
today and
pleasure.
sharing your information. Thank you very much.
Anytime. Thank you.
Let's see, the next one is public comments, Dr. Day.
Yeah, okay. So I will read our usual statement about our policies before I begin to call on the people who signed up. Persons appearing before the school board will not be allowed to campaign for public office or promote private business ventures, and should not use profanity or vulgar language or gestures, make comments about a public official or an employee that are not related to the public official or employee's official duties, or engage in behavior that disrupts the meeting or intimidates others, or address the school board on issues that do not concern the services, policies, role, and/or responsibilities of the school board. Please do not clap, boo, or express approval or disapproval of speakers. Speakers should be treated with respect, even if you disagree with their positions. Individual speakers shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. A speaker representing a group shall limit their comments to 5 minutes. The representative shall identify the group at the beginning of their presentation. A group may have no more than one spokesperson. The total allotted time for public comments at school board meetings is 30 minutes. Voicemail messages to be played are also limited to 3 minutes for individuals and 5 minutes for speakers representing a group. Priority will be given to in-person comments before voicemail messages in the following order. First, students. Second, staff. Third, parents or guardians. And fourth, community members. Public comments are reserved for the public to provide input. The board does not respond to comments, answer questions, or otherwise engage in discussion at this time. The first person on my list is Colleen Poole.
Good evening. My name is Colleen Poole. I'm just going to tell you that I hate public speaking, and but I'm doing this because I thought this was very important. I'm a teacher at Sandusky Elementary. I'm a reading specialist, and I thought it was important to speak to you all tonight. I would like to thank you for rescinding the vote to close Sandusky Elementary School and for advocating to rebuild Sandusky. As stated at the previous meeting, without the expansion of Bass, the schools would be at a 95% utilization rate. The student-teacher ratio has been found to be one of the strongest indicators of student success and engagement. The fewer students each teacher works with, the more closely they're able to adapt their teaching methods to students' needs. They're also able to develop strong relationships with their students in ways that would be impossible in a large classroom. Additionally, a lower ratio would lighten the workload for teachers enabling them to focus on the quality of their instruction. This would be very helpful to new teachers. This would also help with teacher retention rates. In this type of setting, students are more likely to feel comfortable voicing their opinions, asking questions, and making their needs known. Keeping Sandusky open and T.C. Miller will enable the city to keep the class sizes lower and help teachers to focus on individual student needs. Before I came to Sandusky in 2019, I worked in an area school division, first as a third grade teacher for 2 years, and then 13 years as a first grade teacher. Some years I had 18 students, and some years I had 25. The years I had a lower number of students, I was able to sit down individually, help students, listen to them read, make sure they understand the material. The years that I had 25 students were more difficult. I wasn't able to always get to all 25 students that didn't understand, which when that happens, the behaviors increase. You know, the kids become frustrated. They need the help. And when I had a whole, it may not, 18 to 25 may not seem a lot to somebody who hasn't taught before, but when you have a whole group of 7 other students that you're trying to help, 6 or even 4 students is a lot. And when I had 18 to 20 students, I was able to come up with fun, engaging activities. I was able to go home not frustrated. I was able to have a life of my own. The years that I had 25 students, I often, because I had 2 small children at the time, I would come in to school and I would come in at maybe 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning while my husband was still there and worked from 4 o'clock to 8, you know. So thank you for keeping Sandusky open, and thank you for listening to us.
Thank you for your comments. Next is Kristen Rhodes.
Good evening, Dr. Gupta, Dr. Edwards, and esteemed school board members. I am the proud principal of T.C. Miller Elementary School for Innovation, a beacon of choice for students in Lynchburg City Schools for the past 32 years. Our school is a cornerstone in our community, embodying a tradition of excellence and providing unique opportunities for our students to stay connected to their education. Last school year of 2023 and 2024 was especially trying for our families, students, and staff as we navigated the decisions from the school board. The announcement of our potential closure last year led to the loss of many valued teachers. Despite this, we have a dedicated core group of teachers and families who continue to fight for the tradition of excellence that T.C. Miller provides. We have worked tirelessly to assemble a tremendous staff for the upcoming school year. I am proud to announce that we have successfully filled all 20 open faculty positions at T.C. Miller.
Sorry. I'm just got it. You're right, Dr. Day. I apologize.
Structurally, T.C. Miller is one of the strongest buildings in the Lynchburg City School system. As MGT stated, we are built like a tank. We are excited to continue working with the students of Lynchburg City Schools and are deeply grateful for your ongoing support of T.C. Miller Elementary School for Innovation. We continue to hope that you will see the value of our small community school and the power that performing arts has in enriching the lives of all of our students. I invite each of you to visit T.C. Miller and witness firsthand the exceptional work we do. Please come by at any time to see our unwavering commitment to excellence and the vibrant community we have built. Despite all of the setbacks, T.C. Miller is continuing to soar. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Victoria Torrance.
Yep, short people are good up here. All right. Good evening, school board members. My name is Victoria Torrance, and I am an instructional assistant and testing coordinator at Sandusky Elementary School, as well as a parent of a 5th grader back there. I'm originally from Fairfax County, and I came down here to go to Lynchburg College to study elementary education. Unfortunately, due to my experienced student teaching in LCS and the lack of guidance and encouragement from the teacher I worked with, I lost my passion for teaching and faith in Lynchburg City Schools. So I chose not to proceed with education at the time. Fast forward many moons, and it's time for my daughter to get registered for kindergarten. We were zoned for Sandusky Elementary School. However, we live very close to the Campbell County line. So due to my past experiences, I was very concerned about putting my daughter in LCS school. So I was trying everything I could to get her in one of the neighboring Campbell County schools. After months of going through the process, unfortunately, there was no additional room in either of the options. So my next option was to give Sandusky a try. After meeting some of the teachers and Mr. Womack, I had a very positive outlook. Then a few weeks of her having Miss Rowland for kindergarten, and I finally had some faith in LCS again. Of course, then COVID happened, and quickly learned that my daughter and I would not survive homeschooling together. But we did the best we could at the time. My daughter really struggled with reading after COVID, but after the assistance of the Title I team and an amazing 2nd and 3rd grade teacher, and of course the Dog Man books, my daughter was not only reading above grade level, but gained the love of reading. I am beyond thankful for Sandusky Elementary School and all it's done for me. This school has been so good to my daughter and family. I began to feel the pull to get back into education. I wasn't sure how or what position would be right, but after a good friend and former staff member gave me the nudge I needed, I decided to take a leap of faith and jump back in. Finally, I found my place, and I know this is what I was meant to do. None of this would have been possible or as meaningful if it weren't for the amazing staff and kids that I get to work with every day. Sandusky Elementary is my family. I'm so thankful that the decision to close Sandusky was rescinded, and I hope this board continues to find a way to keep it open for years to come. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Quintessa Alex.
Hi, you said Rebecca Griffin. Hello, my name is Rebecca Griffin, and I have a soon-to-be 3rd grade son at T.C. Miller. We chose T.C. Miller, We had chosen T.C. Miller to move my son as our school of choice because my son had bad experiences at his designated school, including a threat to be shot by an older student. This was in kindergarten in 2021. After that incident, which was a culmination of issues at the school, we applied to Desi and T.C. Miller. He was accepted to both, but we did not know at the time that you were only supposed to apply to one school because neither me or his dad are from Lynchburg. We picked T.C. Miller because performing arts is a big component to quality education. I personally come from a school district that is ranked one of the top 50 school districts for performing arts, and I know how important that is for education. The last 2 years have been amazing at T.C. Miller. My son each day was excited about school, and the friends he made and the staff were there for him each day, and all the students. When he was dealing with changes, Ms. Rhodes and the faculty and staff were always there for him. This year is going to be different. Almost all the teachers and staff he knows and loves are gone because the school board announced in April they were considering closing the schools at the end of the school year, that being T.C. Miller and Sandusky. I was able to meet with some of the new teachers, and they sound incredible, but after what happened last year, which was not fair to the students, the student body of LCS, I understand comments won't be responded to, but as a parent, how am I supposed to trust you as the school board with the best intentions of my child? How do you, as a school board, intend to exhibit the LCS slogan of every child by name, by need, to graduation and beyond? Lastly, while plans are being proposed for a new building for Sandusky, which is an amazing announcement, the announcement of reversal for me as a parent of a T.C. Miller student makes me feel like there's no plan for my school. My last question is, how do you as a school board intend on protecting each and every school, every student in Lynchburg? Thank you.
Excuse me, are you Quintessa Alex or Rebecca Griffin?
Rebecca. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear, that's why I asked.
Okay, I had meant to call Quintessa Alex. Is she here? So please come up. Thank you, Rebecca.
Hello. My name is actually Leticia Rodriguez. Quintessa Alex is the email address that I used.
Okay.
However, good evening, esteemed board members, and thank you for granting me the opportunity to speak today. I come to you as a parent concerning the future of T.C. Miller. My small family of two transplanted out of state from Tampa, Florida, on July 4th of this year. Previously, I had the opportunity to understand my child's learning style, and we committed to the performing arts. Not unlike my experience in Florida, prior to moving to Lynchburg, I did extensive research on the school options and histories. T.C. Miller is our school of choice. We immediately applied, then followed up on the future of the school to see great uncertainty. Excuse me. After moving and attending the T.C. Miller kickoff at the school, I was met with more uncertainty to find that the decisions made regarding the school's future led to resignation of school staff, in turn leading to fewer seats available to future students. This meant that my child's attendance, or attending the first year, and her invitation we may have to find a different school because the invitation could be rescinded. This wasn't an option for us. T.C. Miller is the only performing arts school in the county and the best suited for my child's learning style. In short, again, I come to you as a parent, concerned about the future of her child's education. With respect, I implore the board to be transparent and consider the different education styles of students of every age, and that we are given every option available with sufficient time to decide whether we want to remain with the system that we're currently in or seek options that are more suitable elsewhere. I hope that my request is received well, and I thank you again for your attention.
Thank you. Next is Carly Schaefer.
As you know, I'm Carly Schaefer, LCS parent. I spent last year advocating to keep our schools open, for plans to be communicated, to examine how closures affect our most vulnerable populations, and to understand our schools' programs as what LCS should be emulating, not closing. I'd like to congratulate and thank you all sincerely for rescinding the decision to close T.C. Miller and Sandusky. We have been asking for what that work session's discussion was for 11 months. Fortunately, Sandusky retained many of its staff due to the extraordinary leadership of Mr. Womack, who has served the school for 30 years. I urge you to follow through on rebuilding this incredible school with their research and resources. We do it better when we do it together. My T.C. Miller perspective, thank goodness you are not wasting this beautiful, strong building and school within. For many of us who lived through a horribly handled closure and turbulent year, this decision is bittersweet. In May, we had only 3 teachers committed to return. The rest took other jobs because trust was broken. Their livelihoods were in jeopardy with no reassurance. As parents, we received zero official communication from any leader about what was happening and how our kids would be cared for. My second grader was in tears every week as she found out staff were leaving, as her school home and future remained up in the air. You see, elementary students are developmentally not okay with such instability. It rocks them emotionally, impacting their academic and social lives as well. You failed my daughter. You failed her teachers. You failed her classmates. You gave them nothing to hold on to during a storm, and you ignored our every word about the damage you were causing. By now, you know that I would go down with the ship, but my kid was drowning. We switched to DESI for both stability and similar programs. And then a month before school starts, after families have shifted, beloved teachers have left, and so much emotional trauma has been caused, you finally rescind. I tell you this not because it wasn't the right decision. It was. Information, evidence-based studies, and community impact all point to staying open. It's what we've been begging for. So I am truly thankful that our schools are saved. But I hope you take a moment to look at the damage you've caused, a year of agony for us. while you ignored what was so obvious we all suffered. Not just the parents you saw meeting after meeting, but our kids and the families you didn't see, who didn't have the means to be here, but are still part of our public school system and deserve better. It will take time to build back trust, and I hope you do so. Remember that hands-on, creative, empowering learning like that of small community schools of innovation is what families are craving and what sets students up for success, especially students who may not receive those resources otherwise. Speaking of which, I'd like to address an issue brought up multiple times: declining enrollment. Closing excellent schools with excellent outcomes and failing to communicate our plan for students does not lead to higher enrollment. Shutting down STREAM in 2024 when it should be standard practice does not lead to higher enrollment. Cutting after-school clubs like robotics, math, theater, and more does not lead to higher enrollment. Pushing already crowded classrooms to the max of 94% capacity does not lead to higher enrollment, and I think you know that. Smaller classroom sizes lead to better academic results, fewer behavioral issues, and shrink the achievement gap. Why are you on the school board if you are not advocating for these things, instead of shoving as many students into a classroom as possible? Like Dr. Tinsley said, we need a vision for the future for all schools. Use what we've researched about academics and engaging programs, green factors, and school community and culture, and apply it to every school. Families will be drawn to LCS if you invest in and take action with what has been proven to work for education. Mr. Andrews, thank you for always advocating for our students. Dr. Carter, thank you for your wisdom. Ms. Preston, thank you for always hearing us. Mr. Jalil, thank you for reevaluating and voicing creative solutions. Dr. Gupta and Ms. Lowry, thank you for voting to rescind. Mr. Connor and Dr. Tinsley, thank you for your excellent questions and careful consideration of all factors. Dr. Day and Mr. DePaul, I hope to find your future votes in service of our students, not catering to a political agenda. To know our doors will remain open is a beautiful thing and the right decision. We will still be here, advocating for all schools to have manageable class sizes, decent wages for bus drivers, retain experienced teachers, to offer district-wide STREAM, the arts, innovative curriculum, and the stuff that makes our children learn and love it. Remember, that is why we're all here, for them.
Thank you. Next is Siobhan Rhodes.
Good evening. My name is Siobhan Rhodes. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm here to request that my daughter, Ava Rhodes, be allowed to attend Sandusky Middle School. She attended Heritage Elementary School 1st through 5th grade. I received notification that she would be not allowed to attend Sandusky Middle School because she did not meet all of the requirements for out-of-district placement. Instead, she would be required to attend Lincoln Middle School as determined by her physical address. While I realize that she may not meet the requirements as set forth, I would like to appeal to the mission statement of Lynchburg City Schools: every child by name and need to graduation and beyond. I would like to use this mission statement as an appeal to allow flexibility in determining whether Ava can attend Sandusky Middle School. Every child by name and by need. I pray it would apply in this case. When I received an answer to my request for her to attend Sandusky Middle, the first deterrent mentioned was that she had been involved in 3 fights in 5th grade. Yes, Ava was involved in 1 fight and was suspended 3 days, but that was the only fight of her school, her time at Heritage. Actually, Ava was defending herself. Ava has been bullied, or had been bullied in 5th grade, and she received counseling for ways to handle bullying. Up until 5th grade, Ava was a good student and was not involved in any behavioral issues. She was quiet. She was a quiet girl who had to be coaxed into getting a response. It was only when she became involved in the program Girls on the Run in 4th grade that she began to learn ways to handle peer problems. After her first year in Girls on the Run, she went on to 5th grade to become a confident young lady. Hats off to the Girls on the Run program. However, fifth grade proved to be very challenging for Ava. She was bullied. She was bullied like never before. Her response to bullying was only self-preservation, as she did not initiate or antagonize to bring the conflict to physical conflict. Every child by name and need. I ask that the emotional needs of my child be considered. I mentioned above that Ava is quiet and reserved and only defended herself against bullying. She has always been this way, and only after private counseling, Girls Talk, which is a group with fourth grade and fifth grade students and sponsored by her counselor, and the Girls on the Run, Ava did open up to others. Ava desperately needs the continuum of friendships she has made at Heritage Elementary. Everyone knows that middle school is a difficult transition, but to the extremely introvert child, it is especially daunting. I feel that allowing her, based on her emotional needs, to attend Sandusky Middle School would constitute the proportion of the mission statement by name and need, because this is her need. Every child by name and need. Ava would be impacted academically with the mandate to attend Lincoln. Ava passed all of her SOLs with the exception of math, in spite of the year in which she faced bullying and intimidation. As a mom, I want the best for her academics and her emotional status. I feel that attending a school with her lifelong friends will afford her the best chances of success, and this would exemplify the mission of Lynchburg City Schools. I have the denial by our superintendent, and as I understand in consultation with the Director of Student Services, I respect her decision as the authority in this decision. It is awfully difficult to ask this in light of the finality and authority of this office. However, this is not a demand, but a humble appeal to reconsider the decision in light of the powerful mission statement of Lynchburg City Schools, every child by name and need until graduation and beyond. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next is Micah DeVries.
Good evening, members of the school board. Some of you may know my name is Micah DeVries, and I am speaking tonight on behalf of the T.C. Miller PTO. I want to first welcome our new board members, Dr. Tinsley and Mr. Connor. We're glad to have you both. I watched the work session online 2 weeks ago, and I was very grateful for the questions you both were asking, and also appreciated, Dr. Tinsley, your comment about wanting to hear more from the community. I am a parent of a rising 4th and 5th grader at T.C. Miller, as well as a little one who will be attending kindergarten next year. I, along with many other Sandusky and T.C. Miller parents, teachers, and staff, was thrilled, and quite honestly, a little shocked by the school board's decision to rescind the vote made on September 19th. After watching almost every board meeting in the past year, many of us had lost hope that rescinding the vote would be possible. I do want to take a moment to thank the board for rescinding that vote to close T.C. Miller and Sandusky. We know it's not easy to reverse course, and we are very thankful for your willingness to do that. We also want to thank those on the board who have never stopped advocating for us. You are so appreciated. However, I can't say that we feel complete relief. After the unnecessary roller coaster of the past year, we do lack confidence that the school board can guarantee stability to our children, teachers, and staff. We can't help but fear that TCM or another school might just get thrown back on the chopping block without any real thought, discussion, or insight. So now is the time for the school board to pause, to look to the future and see how they might truly make our schools better and advocate for more funding from our city. I also want to remind the school board of some facts before your discussion continues this evening around the future of our schools. At the last work session, the administration pointed out that without the expansion to Bass and the closure of T.C. Miller and Sandusky, the utilization rate would be close to 94%. This is much too high. MGT stated that any school over 90%, as you know, will feel crowded and will be limited in process, flow, and procedure. In fact, MGT also stated that the ideal utilization would be around 85%, which is actually not all that far off from where we are now as a whole. So given that information, it seems that school closures are not currently in the best interest of our students and would only cause potential crowding in classrooms, which we know is not optimal for learning and education. Additionally, I want to remind the board that T.C. Miller, according to Dominion 7, who assessed our elementary school buildings, said that T.C. Miller is built like a tank. In that assessment, T.C. Miller ranked in the top 5 elementary schools in terms of the building. T.C. Miller brings value to its neighborhood, which is so clearly evident by the many yellow Save Our School signs lining most of the neighbors' yards surrounding the school. In closing, prior to this past year, T.C. Miller was thriving. We felt like we had hit the jackpot of elementary schools. Many of us called it the hidden gem of Lynchburg City Schools. The emphasis on the performing arts and STREAM and the sense of community made TCM such a special and safe place for our children. But T.C. Miller has had quite a tumultuous year, as you've already heard, because of the decision from this board. We've lost many teachers, most teachers, staff, and some students this past year, not because T.C. Miller is not an exceptional place, but because people need stability. The last year has been anything but stable. So we come to the board with this request. Please bring back stability to our schools. Please keep in mind the roller coaster that parents, students, teachers, and staff of both Sandusky and T.C. Miller have been through for the past year. For T.C. Miller, I know we can rebuild what we once had and come out stronger than ever before if we can have confidence that our school board is for us and wants our children to thrive there. So I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
And the last person on my list is Betty Kane.
Good evening, Dr. Gupta and Dr. Day and members of the school board. I watched your last meeting, and I left the meeting feeling in somewhat of disarray. I was very concerned about motions being rescinded, motions being made, substitute motions that were made. There was quite a bit of back and forth of having to repeat the same motion, that there was discussion between members that was not addressed to the chair or the vice chair. And just as a citizen, I'm not a member of any of the schools that are talked about here, but I am pro-education, and I want to see our schools do well. I don't think it was your finest hour at last school board meeting. And remember that the community and the other body is watching you. And you seem to be in somewhat of disarray in your last meeting. I hope tonight, as you make considerations and motions, that you will give full considerations to those motions before they're made. Not that you just make a motion and throw it up against the wall and hope that it sticks. And not that you come back and rehash the same things that you have already rehashed for probably 2 years. I know your choices are not what you wanted. None of the options are probably what any of you want, but you have to make a decision. And you have to make a decision in a professional way so that when you go to the other body and carry your decision, you carry the full weight of the board. That's how decisions are made, and that's what confirmation get you. So I was just, as I continued to watch, I wasn't sure if I was watching a sausage plant or school board meeting, because you all were not in agreement or concern about anything. And just as I was watching, other people are watching. You want the support of the community. You deserve the support of the community. And all things that you do, make sure that they're in the best interest of children. So I hope tonight, as you deliberate these decisions, think about it before you make a motion. Think about the impact that your motion may have on all the students of Lynchburg City Schools, and be objective, and not just to make a motion because you're grandstanding or because this is what you may think that is in, this is what I believe, and you haven't considered all the ramifications that your motion may or may not have. So this is just my 2 cents worth, and I hope you do well, and I look forward to coming back and say congratulations on your motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, that exhausts our 30-minute time period, but there is one voicemail. Do you want to hear it, or do we want to have it emailed to the committee? Did I miss? Oh, that's because it didn't get numbered. Yeah, I'm sorry. Please, go ahead. Please go ahead. My oversight.
I mean, I know you guys want to hear from me. You haven't heard from me enough this year. Well, thank you for making the extra 5 minutes for me. First and foremost, I know I've been up here a lot this year. I don't think I knew any of your faces prior to this year, but now we know each other kind of well. So thank you for the decision of last week. I know you saw me pacing a lot last week, throwing my hands up, making lots of motions. But there's been a lot of time, effort, energy put in to everything that has happened this year. And I know you've been asked, and I've been asked, isn't this just kicking the can down the field? I sure hope not. I sure hope not. I have a lot of faith in Lynchburg. I have a lot of faith that we can move forward. I have a lot of faith that we do it better when we do it together. And yes, it might feel like we are right where we started, but we're not, because we're here. We weren't here last year. And I know, Dr. Gupta, you've brought that up before. I wish I had come to the table a whole lot sooner than I did. I really do. I wish that the first time Sandusky was in the capital improvement plan, I would have been down at City Council, but I wasn't, because I had faith our city would do the right thing. But we're here now. We're here now. And we promised you we would continue to fight, and we will. We've already been making phone calls. We've already been sending emails. We've already been looking at programs of how we can get Sandusky rebuilt. But it is going to take some work in this room, too. Over the last year, I have met with many, many people from all different walks of life, all different political spectrums. And the one thing that I keep hearing time and time again is we need transparency. Now, please understand, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but when we have lack of transparency in budgets, or when we have lack of what feels like lack of transparency, people make assumptions. Let's use a public figure as an example. When Princess Kate went missing from public view, what happened? People made a lot of assumptions, crazy, crazy assumptions. It ended up being very tragic, and I'm not trying to make light of that. I'm just trying to use that as an example of what happens when we're not transparent and we don't communicate what's happening. People start to make assumptions, right, wrong, or indifferent. We need to be transparent as LCS with our budget, with what is happening, because we cannot move forward unless we're transparent. An 8-page budget does cause some issues when we're looking at it and digging into it. The other thing that has to change is communication. We have found ourselves at odds as parents, as board members, as administration over this past year. It doesn't need to be that way, and I hope it's not that way moving forward. But the way that things are communicated from this room to parents, from this room to the community, from this room to city council, from this room to your staff and your teachers matters. It matters a lot. How something is said, when it's said, and how it's presented all matters. And I think we can all agree there was a failure there last year. And I think we can agree we can do better. The past is the past. It is water under the bridge. We can't change what happened the last year. I hope we can learn from it. So as we move forward, here's what I hope. I hope we can all work together. The city council, the city, the community, this room, to not just rebuild Sandusky, but to make LCS everything it can be. I watched my son help make a VR game. He's 11. I watched my other son learn things that I was like, you know how to do that on the computer? I had no idea. We have a bright and great future, but it's going to take all of you in this room. I have sat in this room for the last year. I have watched you talk about a lot of things. But sometimes we have forgotten to make the main thing the main thing. Where are we going? What are we doing? And how are we getting the children there? Make the main thing the main thing, and everything else will fall into place. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 30 minutes.
We've used 30 minutes. Do you want to take another 3, or should we ask the clerk to just forward the voicemail file to us?
Forward it.
Forward. Right.
Okay, so Tina, would you please do that for us, the voicemail file?
Thank you, Dr. Day. Next one is consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Mrs. Lowry,
Second?
Dr. Tinsley, any discussion?
Yes, I do have some suggested corrections to one of the sets of minutes. In the past, you've allowed me to just communicate those to Tina, but I'm happy to explain what they are. But
You can share that with Ms. Day. And
okay.
thank you. Other discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Jalil,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Dr. Day,
Yes.
Dr. Gupta,
Yes.
Mrs. Preston,
Yes.
Mr. DePaul,
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie,
Yes.
Dr. Tinsley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The next one is financial reports. Dr. Edwards is running here. Mrs. James, do her job and forward it to you. Go ahead.
Yes, Ms. James. Good evening, Chairman Gupta, members of the school board, and Dr. Edwards. So at this point in the year, I always provide a disclaimer about June financial reports. Even though this is the last month of the fiscal year, the numbers that you have before you are not always the final numbers of the fiscal year. LCS will not have the final numbers until our auditors close the books for FY 2024. Our auditors will be here in 2 weeks. We are trying to do all the things associated with getting prepared for them. There will be audit adjustments made by the auditors within their visit that will recode some of the expenses that you're looking at in accordance with the Auditor of Public Accounts standards. This is common practice in a public fund accounting infrastructure. So if you see these numbers now, and then you see the numbers in the published audit book, and they may seem a little off, I just want you to know they're right now based on the numbers we have out of the financial system. They have not been vetted by the auditors through the audit process. So as of June, which marks the 100% of the fiscal year passing, the amount of expenditures versus original appropriation is at 97.47%. The total expenditures, inclusive of encumbrances, equates to 99.94%. Now, I don't want to brag, but kudos to the entire LCS district for tightening their belts this year and getting as close to the mark of being at 100% or less expenditures as we could possibly be in processing our budget. Some hard decisions were made. They weren't easy, but I'm just giving kudos to the entire district for helping us achieve that status. Although there's still that 0.06% that the auditors may come in and adjust accordingly. So we had a few notable variances at the end of the fiscal year that I think they warrant
some reporting out on. And since minutes matter, and that's Dr. Edwards' theme, I will try to be very short and concise with them. On the statement of expenditures, line 4, you will see an encumbrance of outstanding $2,089,091. Just so you know, that is the encumbrance that's associated with the textbook reserve fund, which we took to the city council for approval. City council approved it, but there's a timing issue in getting that funding to offset that encumbrance. So we anticipate that that will be a wash whenever the timing issue is cleared up. So on line 28 of the expense report, there was an expense overage associated with an unfunded mandate, and this is very important. It's an unfunded mandate. We don't have budget to carry this mandate provided to us, to provide private transportation to students with extreme issues, and they're unable to be transported via conventional methods. So we have to reach out and provide non-traditional ways to provide transportation at a cost to LCS, but we're not supplemented that cost for those transportation efforts. So that's why you see such a skew in the expense of that line. Line 38 in your report, it is a local match for a grant acquisition of electric buses. So we paid that amount of money to get 25 new electric buses, which is our local portion to draw those grant fundings down. Line 54 of your expense report is a capital expense that was associated with an approved sign at the Dunbar Middle School. And there was a timing, it was approved last year, but there was a timing associated with the invoice when it was received. That expense didn't, that invoice wasn't received before fiscal year 2024, or 2023 was up, so we had to pay for it out of 2024 funding. So that's why that budget line is a little over. Line 58, are expenses associated with a local match portion of grant funding for SSOs at the school. So we got a grant. We had a local portion of it. At the time we got the grant, the budget was closed and we didn't have the funding, the local match. So that went as an expense, wasn't pre-budgeted. So that was an expense that looks like that it was over. Line 59 are expenses associated with purchase service security for off-duty LPD officers at school events and meetings. Those expenses are on the rise. We don't look for them to decrease anytime in the future. And the more we want our students to have these opportunities for events, the more that amount of money, that expense is going to increase. So we want to provide a well-balanced experience for our students, and there is a cost associated with that. So the statement of revenues, there are no variances to report. And one other item that I wanted to mention on the summary report, there is an additional line that I added on the summary report this month where I recorded the contingency reserve for the health care that went before City Council and was approved. And that brought our deficit, which was about $2.5 million, down to $921,623.58. So we still ended up with a deficit, and these are fiscal year counting fiscal year months, not calendar months. We still ended up with a deficit, but it wasn't quite as an expansive of a deficit as we had originally, we would have, had we not asked for that contingency reserve to offset that. So that's the end. I will entertain any questions that you have at this time.
Questions, Dr. Day?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. When do you anticipate the audit will be complete?
So they will be on site for about 5 days and 2 weeks. Our audit is a part of the city of Lynchburg's audit. So they have to work all of their piece of the audit. Generally, local governments are required to have their audit complete in November of a fiscal year. So we hope to have it done in November or before November. LCS will try to have our piece of the audit done as close to, our auditor's visit as possible. Our goal would be to have our piece completed in September to get that information to the city so the city could complete their audit in a timely fashion.
Will we see the LCS portion of the audit before we see the final version?
Well, so I believe that, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Wodeka, I believe it's going to have to be adopted by or presented to City Council all at one time. So we're a component of the overall audit. So we won't be able to see those pieces of the audit until the entire audit is presented to City Council, which is generally the practice in the auditing process. Yes, sir.
Okay. I have another question.
Go ahead.
Will we have any fund balance to return to the city?
We won't be able to identify any fund balance
Until the audit.
until the audits have closed the books. Looking at our current cash expenses and the things that we're pulling together to provide to the auditors, that would be probably not.
Okay.
We are landing as close to zero as we possibly can. So we will not have a large amount to return, and we are trying our very best not to have any deficits in that area as well.
Okay, and one last question.
Go ahead.
Do you see any issues that the Facilities and Finance Committee needs to address?
Any current issues?
Issues in our budget or reporting?
Well, so I do believe that we will look to that committee to make recommendations on our healthcare needs in the very near future, because the contract, our current contract expires in December. So we will want to move in one direction or the other in January, no later than January. And so, we will work through that, as well as maybe some recommendations on how better to state our financials, so that they're more in keeping with the theme, transparent and more easily understandable by your constituents who do not have time to study our chart of accounts. And so it's laid out better for them. So staff will look for recommendations from the Finance and Facilities Committee on what the best direction to go with that.
We also have a variety of just other conversations we were going to propose to the Finance and Facilities Committee as well, just to make sure we get those on the table. But once they get their leadership set, I think next week, then we'll have them ready.
Thank you. Other questions? I have a question if nobody else has.
Yes, sir.
So you mentioned several times local match. Is that money coming from our operating budget? Because city funding is flat or declining. So where's the local match coming from?
Generally, it comes out of, for lack of a better term, LCS has their own operating fund. And so a lot of times, if we don't set aside local match for grants, that comes out of unfunded budgeted. And so that's why you see the expense go over in some of the lines to accommodate for the local match, which is the locality's responsibility to provide, to draw the funding down.
Let me ask in a very simple word.
Yes.
Does it come from our operating budget?
Yes, sir.
It does. So it means the money is coming from someplace else to fulfill the need for this local match. Is it true, or is this a saving we were not foreseeing before the fiscal year, and that money became surplus and we used it to make that local match?
No, sir. We don't carry a surplus. Anything that we have on the books is returned to the city at the end of the fiscal year. So it comes from budgeted, our approved budget that is allotted to us by city council. So any local match has to come from that pool of funds that we have set aside to cover our expenses. So that's why on some of those lines you see overages, because we still have to pay for our expenses and try to accommodate to provide for this local match to draw down these grant funds to better our school district.
No doubt. And would you be able to share either with finance or facilities or the whole board in the last fiscal year item and how much local match we made? So we know the total local match made by the school district to make the district better.
For all of our grants, for our combined grants?
Wherever the local match was needed, and it came out of the operating budget,
Yes, sir.
not by CIP, just the operating budget.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. James. I think next one is unfinished business, Mr. DePaul's committee discussion, so go ahead.
The committee's discipline, we did a lot of work, and we made some improvements to the situation that, for the children and for teachers. And when we brought those forward, as the committee suggested, we were talking about day one that these started. Dr. Edwards made mention about being allotted a couple, 2-3 months before she implements with the teachers. Excuse me, I have the floor, please. She mentioned, and it was pretty much past, oh yeah, you know, take the time that you need. I remember the term being 2 to 3 months, and I don't think that that's a good idea, especially for cell phone policy and especially for the discipline where we talk about students striking a teacher being held accountable immediately. Now, I understand first part of the year for teachers, administrators is trying. Life is hard. Life is tough. Doesn't get any easier. We just get stronger. And what we need to do is we need to address the issues about the children as soon as possible. We have learning gaps. I believe that there's a problem with cell phone use. We have problems with teacher retention, teacher satisfaction, happiness, learning, and I believe violence has no place in our schools. So I think, and I want the vote, I'm asking everyone here to vote, that the policy changes that the committees put forth are to be immediately implemented, starting day one of the school.
You're making a motion to that effect?
I thought that motion was already made.
No, that was the amendment.
Yes, I'm making the motion, I apologize.
But but there was, Dr. Edwards, you have the floor, and then let me hold on to the motion, let's
Okay.
hear what she got to say.
So let me speak for myself. My comment was not to implement policies. My comment was the policies all have been passed since the staff and students have not been here. And if we're transparent, if we're communicating, we needed time to work with staff, to work with students, to work with families to ensure that everyone, not just the school board who made the policies, but that the people for whom the policies are made have a clear understanding of what's expected of them, what will happen to them, in our case of our students, our families, how we will implement them for our teachers and our principals. There are a lot of questions. And if we learned anything, it would be whenever we rush, whenever we don't account for giving the people who have to actually do the work and live the work the time to say, okay, how do I and what do I if I? And whenever we don't manage expectations and make sure that our families, we can send a communication out, but our families aren't here. Our students aren't here. Our principals haven't met with their students. So I think what I asked for was a soft landing as we train our teachers, train our staff, work with our administrators, work with our students, let our families know what's going to happen to that $400 iPhone if your child has it. Who's going to collect it? Who's going to take it? Can you get it back? That's what I was asking for. I did not advocate for let us have violence and have nothing be done on the first day of school. But I do firmly believe that every teacher who is coming back deserves the opportunity to at least let me digest this, let me understand, let me figure out in my class what does that mean when the student picks up the phone and I say, put it away. Do I take it? Does the principal, do I call the principal? Do I wait? Do I disrupt class? Every teacher needs to know what to do before it happens so that they can respond appropriately and we don't escalate situations with that. If it's a safety issue, we're going to respond as we always do, safety first. But as far as training, as far as understanding, as far as our parents and our students are concerned, yes, I ask for time to talk to them, speak with them, make sure that everybody understands that, and that's what I meant by a soft landing. That is what I asked for.
Let me make a clarification, Dr. Day. What was the implementation date in the policy? I don't remember. Do you remember?
There were no implementation dates.
There's no implementation date. Mrs. President.
Just a question. What would be a realistic process for informing, and it may not be the same process for everybody. Teachers might learn before parents learn, which might be before students. What would be a realistic process for divulging that information to the various?
So we had principals in, so we met with them, and in my office is a list of questions from principals. They're just from their lens. They have some questions that we need to work through, what happens with, and mind you, I think there were at least 12 or 13 policies that have been passed between, and I can go back and look, but between May 21st all the way up through, there are a lot. It's not just the cell phone policy, the transgender policy. There were several policies that we need to make sure folks are up to speed on. So our principals, we did two of those, the two big policies, cell phone policy and transgender policy, and they did have some legitimate questions that, you know, we tried our best to answer, but then there are some that I have to kind of come back to you all and say, let me make sure that I understand the intent and the spirit of what the board meant when they put this piece in. And I think that's fair for anybody doing their job and responsibility. So what I was asking for is, yes, we're going to go in, we're going to handle it situation by situation. But what I didn't want was for, if day one, if I have a brand new teacher who was like, I didn't know if I should do X or Y, well, the book's going to come right down on you because you should have known because it's day one. Well, I haven't been trained yet. Too bad. You should have known because it's day one. I want to be able to do that part with them. The same thing with students. I do think that, especially at the secondary level, that our principals are going to want to have assemblies with their students, and they're not going to be able to do every single assembly on the first day of school. I don't know that I don't even know how they want to do it, if they want to do it in small groups, if they want to do a large group, how they want to do it. And that was some of the things that we were talking about with our staff and students.
May I ask another question?
Go ahead.
Would it be realistic for you and the principals in the building to kind of prioritize the things that are immediate, the things that may take a little bit more time, and then develop a strategy for implementing those things.
That's exactly what we were doing. So when I said to you, we met, when we had our principal summit, we went through the top, what we thought were the two big policies, one of them being the cell phone policy, the other one being the transgender policy. Now, we met before you pass additional policies. So actually, while we were meeting, the additional policies were on the agenda that night. They had not been passed. So we haven't met since you passed the additional policy, so we have to go back and meet with them to do that. We also have the division literacy plan. Like, there are other things that they are responsible for making sure that, again, everything being day one, that teachers have to be trained on and they have to be ready for, and principals have to be responsible for, that they're also working on right now. So when Mrs. Lowry said, 2 to 3 months, I'm thinking like, okay, that's a soft landing for us all to get together. That's not wild, wild west and we just don't do anything. It's really like, we're gonna have a conversation with a student, we're gonna have a conversation with a parent who may say, well, I didn't see it in the newsletter. I didn't know that that's what you're going to do. Well, let us talk to you first and have those conversations while we implement these policies. That's all.
Mrs. Lowry.
So back to the main question. So you think maybe by the end of the first 9 weeks?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
if we get the people in first and just talk to them.
Okay.
There was a suggestion that tomorrow morning, let's just do policies. That's not what convocation's for. It should, and we're gonna be in a gym, so it's not an ideal place for questions and answers. And honestly, some of this stuff is scenarios. Some of this stuff is our tech department. For example, if parents are submitting forms for pronouns, where are they going? Who's collecting them? How are we collecting them? How do we notify them? Is it like, we've got some work to do in our systems, and everybody's gonna wanna know, well, how do I do what I need to do? And they're gonna wanna be able to go through the process and say, I thought it would work this way, but, and can we go back and revisit? That's just the process when you're doing the work, when you care about the people that you work with and you want them to be successful.
Mr. Jalil.
I think Dr. Edwards's request for a soft landing applies to all of these policies and all of the things that have to be done to prepare the teachers and staff to get these things organized and effectively implemented. I do disagree with one thing, and that is the cell phone policy will not work as effectively as it could if it falls underneath the same process. The children I have seen and read have to have this implemented or established at the first day, because changing it is an extreme irritation to children in the middle of a school year. So waiting until January is not our desire, I don't think, and not doing it the first day of school, not having it established the first day of school is also not ideal. So the other ones I understand can be soft landed and processed through, even though the policies are established. And if you have an incident before everyone is trained, you'll have to handle it as it comes up, correct? But I think that an announcement of some sort before the assemblies, or of course during the assemblies of all the schools, has to be done for the cell phones in particular, because you will otherwise we will create an antagonistic relationship between the students who had their phones for the first week or 2 or 3, and those now who have a problem with it, and those who are now shocked to a degree that they can't use it as they have been doing throughout this first part of the school year. I really think those policies should be separated out. Just at least the cell phone should be isolated to making it a priority for the beginning of the school year.
Mr. DePaul.
We're arguing semantics, understanding that not everybody's going to know everything the first day. We are not operational. We are supervisory. We're oversight. Policies need to be in place from day one. Field discretion, situational discretion is a different animal. We have someone come in, there's a number of things that can happen. We can talk about cell phones, and I agree with you that we need to do the cell phone, that's a priority because of it's the attachment that students have with their phones, with adults have with their phones. We need to have the policies in place. We need to let the teachers know that that is what needs to be done. And they're gonna learn like we learn. They're gonna learn as they go along. But to wait to say that this doesn't have to be implemented, please.
That's not what
I'm saying. What I'm saying is that to wait, to say that we're just going to look, and I'm not saying that you said this, that to look the other way, that it's not going to be a policy until we go through this. I'm saying, let's make sure that these policies are in place, that people know they're in place, put them in the handbook. And that way, when things happen, whether it be the first day or 9 weeks down the road, in that process of field discretion on the part of the administrators and part of the teachers, as well as the students, they can learn instantly. I'm not saying that we need to throw the book at them. I'm saying, or have the book thrown down on the new teacher who didn't have the time to be taught. These are policies, and it can be a learning opportunity from day one. And that's my point. I think that this should start from day one. Soft landings, is an aspect of field discretion and operation. From our point of view, it needs to be something from day one, and something that is, depending on the situation, if someone continues within the first week to violate those rules, that person's taking advantage, and other students are learning that they can get away with things. And I don't think that that's the way we should go. Soft landing is a relative term. I don't want this pushed out. I want it from day one so that we can have that in place.
I'll just give you the floor, just give me a minute.
Sure, yeah.
I thought once the policy is approved by the board, that becomes the law for the district, right? Immediate effect. There's no delay or on that, so that is the law of the school district, the policy is approved. What she was saying is soft landing, what I heard was give me some grace, that you don't hold my feet to the fire for few violations, because it may take time to incorporate that in every school.
You stole my thunder. So what I was going to say is that unless a legislative body, policy-making body has a standing implementation guidelines, or the policy itself states implementation guidelines, then it is immediate. So when we voted, that was it. That was the policy of the district. I agree with your comments. Discretion on the implementation operations to soft land is up to the discretion of the superintendent. And I would just point out, I would think that any violation of these policies would then be up to the discretion of the superintendent's office of how they would punish that. So it's really into your hands at that point. And you could say, I haven't really trained them properly yet, so they didn't understand the policy. So I really think we're all saying largely the same thing here. The policy is the policy, but the superintendent's taking, as you said, discretion to maybe soft land it a little bit, but understanding that that is the policy. It's not to be the policy, it is the policy, and we have to, yeah.
That's why I asked Dr. Day, was there an implementation date in the policy? There is none.
Right.
So that is the policy now, effective the date we approved it.
I just wanted this to be clear.
Yeah, Mrs.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, we all, as teachers, they all get a handbook. We always got a handbook, and in the handbook are all the policies, and it's up to us to make sure we read them. So at day one, like the cell phone it's in effect because it goes in effect as soon as we passed it,
Okay.
but it's also in the handbook, so any teacher can read it too.
That's the point I wanted to make.
Excellent. But go ahead, I'm running out. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I think everybody agrees, as you said, we're just circling.
Fair enough.
May I just, since it is on me, so I'm clear about what I asked for and everybody is agreeing to. So I asked for a soft landing, which means that my team, have the discretion to say, okay, we've got these people trained, we're going to respond this way, that way, whatever that way may be appropriate for that situation. Obviously, safety, we're taking safety as safety is, but wanted the opportunity to at least get people trained as we work through the policy, which we have always understood once a policy is passed, it's passed. I think my question is, while there's passing of policies, there's implementing of policies, and there's reading of policies, the interpretation of what should be done and how something should have been handled was what I was questioning with my soft landing. For example, if it is the first day of school, period 2, and something happened and the response was not what may have been what some people thought should be, is it what the people thought, or is it, we did give you the discretion, Dr. Edwards? That's the part that I wanted to be clear. But I'm hearing that we do give you the discretion, Dr. Edwards, as you're implementing these policies to handle them as we train staff, teachers, and parents, and so on and so forth.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
Are you concerned about timing with the closed session and the attorneys?
Yes.
I will.
We have only one item left, so let's not change it. Because we are going on.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So next one is item new business SEAC committee membership. Dr. Bosher.
So I don't know if
He said enough today. He did his quota.
I'm not done yet.
Dr. Bosher is online, and there she is. So she can tell you about the SEAC committee and the list of members that she has. Remember, this is the committee that has to get started while you're still advertising for folks who are interested in all of the committees right now. So, we hear you.
Still can't hear you.
She's just gonna unmute. She muted.
Mr. Chair, is this an action item tonight? Is this a?
I believe her, this is just for
Would you
first
talk on her
reading.
behalf?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Hope I do this right. This is for information. It's going to be an action item at our next meeting. But if you look at the list of the advisory committee, she has recommendations for advisory committee members. For the special ed advisory committee, you have to be a parent of a student with disabilities to be on that committee. There are some other spots on there as well. So she does have this. Her committee meetings are advertised. Other people can attend. They're just not voting members of the committee. We had that last year where we had larger committees or larger meetings where we had the committee members who were only the voting members. So we usually give this to you for 2 reads. So you should be able to open that up and see the list of parents that she had. Last year when you did this, she did invite and the folks who expressed interest to come to the meetings, they were invited to attend the meetings and attendance was taken. So I don't know that many of them did. So this, if I'm not mistaken, is just for information now, and it will come back to you for a second read. Since this is in conjunction with what you're doing right now, so right now you're soliciting for parent volunteers, community volunteers to join all of the advisory committees and the three committees for the school board. All of that information will go to Ms. Day. Ms. Day will make sure that it gets to the full board. You all will vet it and have access to it the same way you did last year. Names will appear on the board agenda for approval at your timing when you all finish. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Edwards. So Ms. Bosher will join us until next time. Maybe she can come in person.
Sure.
The audio doesn't work. So that way, if any questions the board members have, they can ask her before voting. Thank you. Next one is school board member reports. Gov School, Mrs. Lowry.
Okay, we got an email today. There was not a quorum, so it's been moved until September 4th for the first meeting, so tomorrow. And Laurel, I went and talked to Dr. Lewis since I'm the chair now, and our first meeting is August 19th. And since I'm talking already, down at the Academic Success Committee meeting, that first one is August 27th.
And next one is STEM Academy, Mr. Connor.
I have not, to date, I have not done anything with it, but I intend to contact the right people very shortly.
Thank you. Finance and Facilities, we don't have a chair, so Mr. Andrews, Mr. DePaul, and Dr. Tinsley, anybody?
We meet next week. And yeah.
Thank you. LACR,
Same
since we don't
thing.
have a chair, Dr. Day, Mr. Connor, Mr. Jalil.
We're meeting on the 20th.
Yeah, have not yet met. Same thing with academic success. We have not yet met.
Academic Success Committees, Dr. Day, Mrs. Preston, Mrs. Lowry. You have not met yet, huh?
Have not.
And it's 27th of August.
27th of August. PI is Mr. Andrews and Dr. Tinsley.
I don't have anything, Dr. Tinsley. Yeah, we haven't met yet either, so.
Ed Foundation, Mr. DePaul and Mr. Jalil.
Haven't met yet.
Nobody's meeting.
Beacon of Hope, Mr. Andrews and Mrs. Preston.
Beacon of Hope is still very active, doing various things. They, yesterday and today, I believe it is, from 9 to 12, they were hosting a college summer workshops. And then later on, I think it's the day before school starts, then Beacon of Hope has partnered with several different community businesses that are barbershops and nail places and so on and so forth, so that kids can get free back-to-school pampering services. This is for EC Glass students, so they partnered with the EC Glass faculty, staff, families, or whatever to make that happen. So they're still really busy doing lots of things to benefit our students.
Thank you. That completes the board member reports. Superintendent comments, Dr. Edwards.
Yeah, and in an effort to just speed up, because you seem to get to the second part of the meeting, I just want to, let everybody know that we have, our division literacy plan did get approved by the VDOE, so we did get that information. We have been in collaboration with Liberty University, University of Lynchburg, and Grand Canyon University. All three have supported us in different ways this week. In terms of volunteers and having tutors work with our students, education majors, pre-service majors work with our students, and also having programs work with us to get our teachers certified. So we're excited about that. And then this Saturday, One Community, One Voice, we'll have the back-to-school event at the University of Lynchburg, and we will be there at 10 o'clock. And all of our families, our schools, will be represented there.
Thank you. Next one is board comments. I'll start with Mr. Connor. Go ahead.
No comments at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Jalil?
I'm excited about the convention tomorrow. Hope everybody shows up, and it is a great event.
Convocation.
That one too. Also for Enrollment Day on the 15th. That is going to be a nice day for everyone. I enjoyed a session of the poverty simulation today at Rustburg Middle School, and I hope that we can get a simulation back into LCS for the new teachers. It was a great experience to go through and see how difficult it is for people to survive on EBT cards and the different types of things that have to go through and learn. The families have to go through, and then the students have to learn during the day in school with these distractions in their lives, going through all the processes of getting along with resources and not knowing what all the resources are in the city, and having to go through the educational system was an eye-opener in certain ways, and I hope we can get that back here to LCS. I'm excited about the school year upcoming, and hopefully we can increase our enrollment, we can increase our academic success, and I am looking forward to implementing a number of things that will be great. I have some simple things that I would like to see, such as looking at this wall with 4 pictures on it for the entire 12 months was not the most joyful thing in the world, so I have suggestions for that wall, but I'll bring them up later. I would like to explain that I had a motion that was approved a year ago concerning Constitution Day on September 17th. I'll be bringing that up again. I would like that to be put on the agenda for the chair and vice chair soon, because September is coming up quickly. And there are a number of things that I am very happy to support that the board members have brought up. I hope to be a part of what your agenda is in the future, and please let me know all the details that I can help you with in these things. Thank you.
Mr. Andrews?
I yield my time.
Okay, Dr. Day?
In the interest of time, I was going to propose that we reorder the agenda to go into closed session now, because my comments are going to take a few minutes. I'm trying to help you.
You want to post them for the board or just read them?
I'm proposing that we reorder our agenda for tonight to
We are
go into
always
closed
up.
session now and resume where we left off.
You have to read the whole paragraph. Can you make it a smaller version?
No.
Okay.
I move that we reorder our agenda to go into closed
Second.
session now. This takes a 2/3 vote because it's changing something we've already decided.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Connors,
Yes.
Mr. Jalil,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Dr. Day,
Yes.
Dr. Gupta,
No.
Mrs. Preston,
Yes?
Mr. DePaul.
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie.
Yes.
Dr. Tinsley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Right. Let me read the motion for the closed session. Oh, the verbiage for, so we're now going into the closed session. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Jalil.
Yes.
Mr. Andrews.
Yes.
Dr. Day.
Yes.
Dr. Gupta.
Yes.
Mr. DePaul.
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie.
Yes.
Dr. Tinsley.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Now, the board chair recommends the school board approve the certification of closed meeting in accordance with the Virginia Code, Code of Virginia 2.2-3712D. And in the closed meeting just concluded, nothing was discussed except for the matter specifically identified in the motion to convene in a closed meeting and lawfully permitted to be discussed under the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act cited in that motion.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second?
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Jalil.
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Dr. Day.
Yes.
Dr. Gupta,
Yes.
Mrs. Preston,
Yes.
Mr. DePaul.
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie.
Yes.
Dr. Tinsley.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, we are close. We come back to the board comments. Dr. Day.
Okay. So I wanted to make some observations about the consequences of our decision last meeting to rescind. At our last meeting, July 23rd, we voted in favor of an amendment, an amended motion that originated with Mr. Andrews that contained two parts. A, to rescind the board's motion of September 19th, 2023, and Part B, to rebuild Sandusky. Now, the precise motion that we rescinded, the statement of the motion from September 19th, 2023, that we rescinded is precisely this. I went back and rewatched the video, so I've got it word for word. That we adopt MGT Scenario 3 as the board's plan for moving forward, along with the request of $15 million to pay for expansion and renovations at the W.M. Bass Elementary School to accommodate additional students assigned there under close-to-home zoning. That is what we chose to rescind. Now, rescinding means we have undone that decision. Now, Scenario 3, we voted to rescind our adoption of Scenario 3. Scenario 3 included many things beyond those pertaining to Sandusky and T.C. Miller, such as close-to-home zoning, things about pre-K and CTE, renovations or expansions at several other schools. Those things are all part of what we rescinded because they were part of Scenario 3. The only thing we have adopted in their place is the plan to rebuild Sandusky. Now, Scenario 1 included rebuilding Sandusky as well as other things such as close-to-home zoning, renovations at other schools, closing Heritage as an elementary school and repurposing it as an adult education facility, and closing Fort Hill. But we have not adopted Scenario 1 in its entirety. We've only adopted the part about rebuilding Sandusky. By not adopting Scenario 1, we have not ruled those other things out. We've simply made no decision about them. Our decision to rescind means we have undone the decision to close or convert T.C. Miller because that was part of Scenario 3. That does not mean that we have ruled out its closure or conversion in the future. We simply have left its fate undecided, just as it was before the motion of September 19th, 2023. We've made no decision to rule anything out except permanent closure of Sandusky. Now, on October 24th, we did approve some intentions about pre-K, CTE, and close-to-home zoning. You can see them on page 8 of the presentation that was given at our last meeting. Those decisions were not part of what we rescinded, so we can probably consider them as still having the board's formal approval. But none of the renovation or expansion plans for specific schools remain in the board's formally approved plans at this point. We have undermined a lot of what we have planned since last fall, and may need to revisit many things that were scheduled or that were settled prior to our last meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Day. Mrs. Preston?
No comment.
No comment.
I'm just looking forward to a new school year, helping all the kids, and I like the idea that there will be links to all the newsletters from all the schools in our newsletter coming to us, so that way we can see what's going on, because it was hard to keep up with that last year, so.
Thank you. Tinsley?
Just that with the policy decision that discussion that we had earlier, you know, policies become active as soon as they're voted upon by the board. We do offer discretion to leaders, superintendent's office, to enact those policies, but we do reserve the right to scrutinize that discretion. And I think that's an important point that needs to be made. That's all I have.
Thank you. There are informational items, Student Discipline Data Review Committee, August 8th at 3 p.m. Finance and Facilities, August 13th at 3:30 p.m. LACR, August 20th at 3:30 p.m. Academic Success Committee, August 27th at 3:30. And the next school board work session, August 27th at 5 p.m. We are adjourned.
And convocation tomorrow.
Yeah, convocation is tomorrow at 9:30.